Hello viewers, how are you? During this meeting, I'm going to discuss with you about the job performance, chapter number 2, and we are going to begin our journey with the integrative model, uh, the first individual outcome, which is about the job performance. Why I'm beginning with the job performance? Because when you are understanding your job performance, and, and job performance is a critical concern for a lot of employees, and that is also a critical concern for the people who are managing their job, the managers. So that is why important to understand that what are the job performance, what are the different components of the job performance, what consists of the job performance. So that's what we are going to discuss in this chapter. Let me share a PowerPoint slide with you. So let's define job performance. That sometimes it make people are considering job performance in a more objective way, a more that how that particular job is contributing towards the bottom line. For example, the job performance of the salespeople is often measured by the amount of the sales revenue generated by each person over some time span. It makes sense. It makes sense when you are measuring a salesperson job in terms of the amount of the sale. And because salespeople are hired by the organization to generate sales, so they need to meet the sales target or exceed the sales target, and then they would be considered as a high performer. Uh, so it is very easy to appreciate how the sales revenue from each salesperson might be added up and used as an indicator of business financial performance. However, it creates certain kind of the problem as well if we are totally focusing on this objective criteria. One problem is that the employees contribute to their organization in ways that go beyond bottom line results. I mean, uh, just it's not employees are doing a lot of other things, just not for the profit maximization of the company, but they are basically also doing other tasks as well. For example, helping the other people and doing their tasks. So it is not always that the employees are doing only for the bottom line or for the profit maximization of the organization. When we are focusing on only on the profit maximization and the bottom line means a profit of the company. For when we're talking about the profit making company, that means the bottom line is their profit. If we have that kind of a mentality that the employees are only focusing on the bottom line, so they are going to not they are not motivated to help their co-workers and to develop some kind of a good reputation among their co-workers, because they think that the only matter is the results, and on the basis of the result they are going to evaluate. Second, sometimes there are certain kind of the environmental factor which are contributing into the output of that particular job. For example, which we call the some sales area are considered to be a green areas, and that is why that green areas, when you're working in the green areas, so you are able to make more profit in comparison to the other areas which is considered to be sometimes some sales people as a dry area. And especially under this last year, sometimes some organization get affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and some organization also make the profit during the COVID-19 pandemic, depending upon their commodity. So when we are going to, that is why to understand this question, that what contributes into the employee job performance, the job performance is defined in the terms of the behavior, that those set of the behavior that contribute either positively or negatively to organizational goal accomplishments. This definition of the job performance is actually defining the job performance in terms of the behaviors, and those behavior which are under control of the employees, and which are basically placing a certain kind of the boundaries under which their job is going to perform. For example, consider the behavior of a server in a restaurant that prides itself on a world-class customer service. Texting a friend during a work break would not be usually be relevant in either a positive or negative sense to the accomplishment of the organization goals. That behavior is therefore not relevant to the server's job performance. However, texting in the middle of the customer order would be relevant in a negative sense to organization goal accomplishment. Therefore, then that behavior is relevant to the server's job performance. So that means this definition of the job performance entails that we are going to discuss only about those behavior which are relevant with that particular kind of the job. For example, if you want to consider that whether that person is performing that job good or bad, we need to see that how his or her behavior is contributing towards achieving the organizational goals. And there are two categories in this job performance. One is basically task performance and citizenship behavior, which are two positive behaviors, and a third one is a counterproductive behavior, which is considered as a negative behavior. So first of all, we are going to discuss about the task performance. What do we mean by the task performance? Task performance include employee behavior that are directly involved in the transformation of organizational resources into the goods or services that the organization produces. So if that means this is the job description of the employee. Normally what we get as a job description, the kind of the duties that person is going to perform, that comes under the task performance. For example, if there is a flight attendant, so the task performance for the flight attendant includes announcing and demonstrating safety and emergency procedure, distributing foods and drinks to the passenger. Uh, for a firefighter, task performance includes searching and burning building to locate fire victim. And for an accountant, preparing, examining, analyzing account record for accuracy. So these kind of, for example, HR manager include job performance. Task performance includes recruitment, selection, training and development, and these kind of activities which come under the task performance of a HR manager. Now, the task performance has a three dimensions. One is a routine task performance, and routine task performance is it's a routine involves well-known response to the demand that occur in a normal or routine base. It's a kind of the habitual or the programmed way in which the employees are acting in the organization. Or example of the routine task activity, uh, you may recall, for example, the person who is driving a car, that person who's a driver in the company, driving a car, picking up the executive, dropping the executive. That's a kind of a routine job for the driver. It's a kind of a routine job for the driver. In contrast, the adaptive task performance, or more commonly what we call the adaptability, that means that involve employee response to the task demands that are novel, unusual, or at the very least unpredictable. It's a kind of a new situation. It's a kind of a new situation where the employees are adapting according to that particular situation. And for example, there is a movie, Sully, and in this movie, the uh, pilot is landing the uh, plane on the river. It's not in a routine task performance. The routine task performance for the pilot is to take the plane from one station to the another station. But landing on the water, they have been trained for these kind of the activities. But due to one engine is not working for the airplane, so that is why that is an emergency landing on the Hudson River. It's a kind of the adaptive task performance for the pilot under those circumstances. There's a kind of a different kind of a situation, and so people are adapting according to the different kind of the environment. For example, you people are adapting through this online courses, and it's a kind of a new way of learning, but people are adapting according to this new technologies and learning new softwares. Even if you have adapted yourself in the Moodle LMS and the Zoom classes and the Google Classroom, so these are kind of adaptive task performance from the students and the teacher as well. Then finally the creative task performance. It's a degree to which individual develop ideas or physical outcomes that are both novel and useful. Sorry. That is a novel and useful. So, uh, for example, there are different kind of the brooms which come and which change the way through which we are cleaning our houses. So that's kind of a novel and the new ideas coming in that kind of industry about the brooms, and any kind of a novel and the creative idea, which are initially is the creative, and then once it has been copied, then it becomes kind of a routine thing for the organization. So swimsuits are, for example, the total swimsuit, total body swimsuits, which are quite new when they have been when the swimmers use those kind of full body costumes. But this is kind of a creative task performance in the in case of the swimsuits. So creative task performance does not necessarily mean that you're coming up with a new product. You can also come up with a new kind of a service as well. For example, Dell in the 2000, when they basically it's a product and a service as well, because when they're delivering the computers at their customer home, so this is the kind of a new kind of a service which they provided to the customers. Okay, these are the different behaviors involved in the adaptability. It has been given in your book as well. Now the job analysis. And now you have a good understanding about the task performance behavior, the routine task, adaptive task, and the creative task. So you might be wondering that how organization identifies a different set of the behavior for the different kind of the job. For that purpose, organization is identifying the task performance behavior by conducting a job analysis. What is the job analysis? A job analysis is the list of the activities involved in a job is generated. There are different ways through which the job analysis can be conducted. Observation, interview, survey are some of the methods through which the job analysis uh, can be conducted in the organization. So you can each activity on the list is rated by the subject matter expert according to the things like the importance and the frequency of those activities, and the activity that are rated highly in terms of their importance and the frequency are retained and used to define the task performance of the task performance for that particular kind of a job. Occupational Information Network, or ONET, is an online database that includes, among other things, the characteristics of most jobs in terms of task, behavior, and the required knowledge, skills, and abilities. So one can get some kind of a sample job description from this Occupational Information Network. That's one example of the flight attendant. Now, the task performance behavior are not simply performed versus not performed. People are performing their task, but to some extent, some people are performing their job very well. They are considered to be the good performer, and some people are performing their jobs not up to the mark, and sometimes they are not performing their task, so that then we consider them as a poor performer. So the best performer often exceed the expectation for all those behaviors. So that's why we have considered them that they did the extra mile. When we talk about, for example, some of you are submitting their project, meeting the minimum requirement. Sometimes some people are exceeding the expectation, and they are submitting the project which are quite outstanding. So that those kind of the students are going to get A plus grade in their course. Now the another kind of the behavior which we consider citizenship behavior, and sometimes employee go the extra mile by actually engaging in behavior that are not within their job description and thus do not fall under the broad heading of the task performance. This situation brings us to the second category of the job performance, which is the citizenship behavior. People are doing a different kind of the voluntary activity which has not been written in their job description, but still they are doing it in the organization. For example, they are helping their colleague if the colleague gets stuck in any kind of assignment. They're talking good about their organization. They are in the courtesy. They are sharing some kind of the information. So these kind of the different kind of activities, which have not been written in their job description, but employees still involved in those activities, and these activities are considered as a citizenship behavior. So there are broadly there are many behavior which you can consider under the citizenship behavior, but broadly they come under the two categories. One is interpersonal citizenship behavior, and second is organizational citizenship behavior. The first category, which is interpersonal citizenship behavior, that benefit co-worker and colleagues and involve assisting, supporting, and developing other organizational members in a way that goes beyond normal expectation. Interpersonal mean between two individuals, that you are benefiting, your behaviors are benefiting your co-workers and your colleagues, and this involves the helping. What do we mean by helping? Helping means that you are assisting your co-workers who have a heavy workload. You are going to help them, and this is a helping courtesy. And sometimes you inform the co-workers about the information which is relevant to them. And the sportsmanship, that you maintain a good attitude with the co-worker even if they have done something annoying. Sometimes they are passing certain kind of annoying remarks, but you are just ignoring them to maintain a good attitude with their co-workers. Then there are second category of citizenship behavior is organizational citizenship behavior, and these kind of the behavior benefit the overall the larger organization by supporting and defending the company, and working to improve its operation and being especially loyal to it. What are the different kind of the behavior which comes under the organizational citizenship behavior? That involve the voice, civic virtue, and boosterism. By voice, we means speaking up and offering constructive suggestion for change. For example, if you see that there is a certain kind of a procedure which need to be changed in the organization, so you go to the manager and give them the suggestion that through this way we can improve our working in the organization. For example, if you're giving certain kind of a constructive suggestions to your teacher that how they can basically improve the online experience of their students, this is involve the voice. Or you can give it to the manager administration, so that becomes the voice for improving the overall experience of a online learning for students. Then the civic virtue, that refers to participating in the company's operation at a deeper than normal level. What do we actually mean that, for example, attending some voluntary meeting, attending some voluntary conferences, to get an update information about the things which you are doing. For example, you are an HR manager, so you are getting some information about different kind of a software, different kind of a development in the field of the HR, even though it has not been written in their job description to get updated, but you want to be updated so you can have a better understanding about the your function of HR, and you are also abreasting yourself with a different kind of a news and knowledge about the what is happening around you and how these things are affecting your organization. These all things come under the civic virtue. Then the boosterism means representing the organization in a positive way when out in public, away from the office, away from your work. For example, if you are working in the organization and you are outside of the organization and you meet with some other people, you're talking good about the organization and you are highlighting the good points of the organization. And this is considered as a boosterism. So organization citizenship behavior are the two kind of the behavior which we have discussed over here. So citizenship behavior is relevant in virtually any kind of a job, regardless of the particular nature of its task. And there are clear benefit of these behavior in terms of the effectiveness of the work units and organization. And especially if the organizations are passing through certain kind of the crisis, especially under this crisis which we are passing through, this pandemic COVID-19, and under this, how the people remain positive, how the people remain committed, how the people helping each other to pass through this all kind of the crisis, even though some people are passing through certain kind of a health challenges, financial challenges. So this kind of a citizenship behavior become more critical under these kind of a conditions. Now we have discussed about the two positive behaviors of job performance, task performance, and citizenship behavior. Now we are discussing about the negative behavior, which are affecting negatively to the organizational goal. So this third broad category of the job performance is a counterproductive behavior, and that is defined that employee behavior that had intentionally means janbujkar, hinder hinder means stop the organizational goal accomplishment. It is basically contributing negatively towards the goal accomplishment. Now, there are four broader categories of counterproductive behavior. First is the property deviance, and property deviance refers to behavior that harms the organization assets and possessions. Production deviance is also directed against the organization but focuses especially on reducing the efficiency of work output. Political deviance refers to behavior that intentionally disadvantage other individuals rather than the large organization, and personal aggression refers to hostile verbal and physical actions directed towards other employees. Now, let me explain these four counterproductive behavior one by one, and what kind of the behavior which comes under these broader categories. So, if we look into this diagram, the interpersonal to organizational level and minor to serious level. So you can see that the property deviance and the personal aggression are more serious offenses, whereas production deviance and the property deviance are at the organization level. However, political deviance and the production deviance are more kind of a minor deviances in the context of the counterproductive behavior. Now, if we talk about the property deviance, to refer to the behavior that harm the organization assets and possession. For example, sabotage. By sabotage, represent the purposeful destruction of physical equipment, organizational processes, or company product. So, for example, if someone is basically destroying the laser disk in the organization, destroying the computer, destroying the equipment, and damaging the equipment and the resources of the organization, so that comes under the property deviance. Another serious form of the property deviance is a theft, and that represents another form of the property deviance, and it can be as expensive as sabotage. So, if the people are continuously stealing the products of the company and the things of the company, so that organization that costs hundreds of rupees, hundreds of dollars to the organization if the theft remains unchecked. And for example, if you are working in the restaurant and you're providing a free meal to your family or the friend, for there it's a benefit, but it's a basically deviance for the organization. Now the production deviance. The production deviance is directed against the organization, but specifically focus on reducing the efficiency of the work. By reducing the efficiency of the work, there are two kind of a behavior: dominant behavior, wasting resources, and then when employee use too much material or too much time to do the little work, and working too slowly, taking too many breaks, um, working nothing but appearing busy, just passing time. These are all can come under the wasting resources. And another is substance abuse. Another kind of the production deviance. If employees uses drugs or alcohol while on the job or shortly before coming to the work, so the efficiency of their production will be compromised, because their work will be done more slowly and less accurately if they come under certain kind of uh, a certain kind of uh, alcohol or drugs, under the influence of alcohol or drugs. So this will comes under the substance abuse. Then the political deviance, and this refers to the behavior that intentionally disadvantage other individuals rather than large organization. That this kind of the deviance is focusing on certain kind of individual, like gossiping. Gossiping, having a casual information conversation about other people in which the facts are not confirmed as true. This is one kind of the political deviance, and everyone has experienced certain kind of the gossip. Okay, I'm going to start with the political deviance where the last uh, video has ended. Let me share slides with you. So political deviance, in contrast to the property deviance and the production deviance, it basically focuses on the individual. It potentially disadvantage any individual in the organization, like having some casual conversation about the people in which the facts are not confirmed as true. And everyone has experienced certain kind of a gossip at one point of a time. And when you come to know about your the gossiping about yourself and which is not true, so it does not feel good to the people. People does not feel good about it. That why people are basically spreading these kind of a gossip about me, and that sometimes affect their motivation as well. But people get strong and then sometimes ignore it and basically refute it and talk it about, so that that gossip will not spread out in the whole organization. But this is the one kind of the political deviance. And second is incivility. Incivility represents communication that is rude, impolite, and discourteous and lacking in good manners. And the erosion of manner and the incivility in the organization, incivility is a widespread phenomenon in the society as well. People sometimes does not consider that that is incivility. When you're talking loud with other people, even that sitting very close to you and using certain kind of a derogatory language and being disrespectful to them and impolite to them, this kind of incivility is also one kind of a political deviance. Then is the personal aggression. Under the personal aggression, there are two kind of the behavior. One is harassment and the abuse. Personal aggression is defined as a hostile, verbal and physical actions directed towards other employees. It includes the verbal hostility and the physical hostility as well. So harassment means uh, occurs when employees are subjected to unwanted physical contact or verbal remarks from the colleague. If the someone is advancing physically to the someone which the other person is not liking about it, and but the other person does not allow it, so that is come under the harassment as well. Even certain kind of the verbal remarks and these kind of things which come under harassment. And the second form of the personal aggression is abuse. And abuse, it occurs when an employee is assaulted or endangered in a such a way that physical and psychological injuries may occur. Even though they are into the certain kind of a condition where other person is, let's say, physically, let's say, pushing them or hitting them, that comes under the physical abuse, or it is the physical abuse sometimes follows with the psychological injuries as well, because people sometimes consider them it's a very kind of a uh, embarrassment. I mean, they consider that embarrassment in front of the other people, and these kind of a abuse occur when the any colleague or manager is basically assaulted them physically and putting them into that condition where those kind of the physical injuries may occur to them. And These kind of, for example, there are different forms of the physical abuse. Even in the United States, it has been reported that some employees are murdered in the organization as well. So this is the one kind of the abuse which happened in the United States. Now, that is what we talked about, that there are different kind of the counterproductive behaviors. So there is evidence that people engage in a one form of the counterproductive behavior also engages in a other. So it will represent a pattern of behavior than the isolated incidents. So that's the job of the manager. If they identify that the person is engaging in a one kind of a counterproductive behavior, so they need to look on and what we call the nip the evil in a bud. So that counterproductive behavior should not lead to the another serious form of the counterproductive behavior. Counterproductive behavior is relative to any kind of a job. It does not matter what the job entails. There are going to be things to steal, resources to waste, and people to be uncivil and disrespectful towards others. And uh, and it is often surprising that which employees are going to engage in a counterproductive behavior. So what does it mean to be a good performer? The good performer at the particular job task that fall within their job description, the kind of the duties which have been mentioned in their job description, that person is should be able to perform those kind of the duties. For example, in case of the HR manager, the HR manager needs to perform selection, recruitment, performance evaluation, training and development, then day-to-day HR operational activities, career management, grievance procedures. There's a lot of things which the HR manager do. So that comes under their task. Then engages in a citizenship behavior directed at both co-workers and the organization level, and refrains from engaging in any kind of a counterproductive behavior so that it cannot badly damage the climate of the organization. So that is mean to be a good performer in the organization. What does it mean to be the good performer? That's a diagram which is summarizing the whole chapter. You can look into this diagram. Three dimensions of a task performance, two dimensions of a citizenship behavior, then the four broader categories of the categories or dimension. I mean, consider and categories of the counterproductive behavior. So these are the things which are contributing towards the job performance. Now there are certain examples uh, of the uh, application of the job performance, and the application of the job performance can be understood through the performance management systems. And what do we mean by the performance management system? Is performance management systems are those systems through which the organizations are measuring the performance of their individuals, performance of their employees. There are various methods. One is management by objective, and management is a philosophy that base an employee's evaluation on whether the employee achieves specific performance goals. And so typically manager and the employee set a mutually goals, that these kind of the goals which we are going to achieve in this particular period of a time, and employees agree on the time period as well and achieving these objectives and how they are going to achieve it. And example of the performance objective for a line manager in a factory might be something like, let's say, reducing production waste by 35% within 3 months by developing and implementing new production procedures. So this is the one way through which the employees and the manager can set their targets jointly, and also setting the time and how they are going to do it. So it's a one kind of the philosophy which involves the employees and the manager in setting up those kind of goals. Then there is another method, and which is of measuring a job performance, which is the behaviorally anchored rating scales. A behaviorally anchored rating scale measure performance by directly assessing job performance behavior. The short name for the behaviorally anchored rating scale is BARS, and the BARS approach uses critical incident. What do we mean by the critical incident? The critical incidents are a short description of effective behavior and the ineffective behavior in the organization. For example, uh, If we are talking about category of planning, organizing, and scheduling for the manager, so excellent behavior, excellent critical incident is one critical incident will be very effective, that the person develop a comprehensive project plan, document it well, obtain the required approval, and distribute the plan to all concerned. So this is a critical incident which is very effective. A bad critical incident would be that person is not able to do any kind of the planning for the project and failed consistently that how he or she is going to complete the project. That is a ineffective critical incident. So you are going to list down all the critical incident for the job, and then you are going to give a certain kind of a rating to those critical incidents. And if the person, if you are when you are evaluating a person against that job, so you are basically using that behaviorally anchored rating scale and see that how his behavior is coming under the different kind of a categories of the bar. For example, if you look into that thing, I mean, the first line is a excellent behavior, and the last line is very unacceptable. And similarly, this rating scale giving a different kind of the numbers to the different kind of the behaviors. So this is how the things are can be. This is how the performance can be measured with the help of the bars. Then another approach is a 360-degree feedback that involves collecting performance information, not just from the supervisor, but from anyone else who might have a first-hand knowledge about the employee's performance behavior. That includes the employee subordinates, peers, customer, and so supervisor, and combined rating are considered when we are evaluating the performance of the individual. But it has certain kind of the problem and the limitation as well. So especially for the promotion and especially for the rewards, it's best suited to the developing or improving the employee talent. So it can be used for the developing and the training component of the employee. Then the forced ranking method, and the forced ranking method is the most notable strategy popular by the Jack Welch to build a great workforce of the General Electric. Um, Actually, Welch considered several systems that could differentiate the employees, and the most effective relied on the vitality curve. By vitality curve, he means he actually forces manager to rank all of their people into one of the three categories: the top 20% A players, the vital middle, the 70% B player, or the bottom 10% C player. So the A players are thought to possess the four E's of GE leadership: very high energy levels, the ability to energize others around common goals, the edge to make tough yes and no decisions, and finally the ability to consistently execute and deliver on their promises. These are the kind of the people which are A category people, are those people who have a kind of a passion and the energy to perform and to get things done and to get the work done by the other people as well. So this he considered them as the A players. Then he basically said that the B players are developed according to the Jack Welch. B players are the backbone of the company, but lack the passion of the A's. And C players are those who cannot get the job done and are let go. And the system was taken seriously at General Electric, that the manager who could not differentiate their people tended to find themselves in the category C. So this is a kind of the forced ranking method. Then another, it's a kind of a new method, which is a social networking system, like using application like Facebook and the Twitter that have been used in the organizational context for the purpose of developing and evaluating employee job performance. Um, for example, if you are presenting some, if you're presenting some product, or if you make a presentation in the front of the employee, and the employees are anonymously giving a feedback about that how they are going to rate that presentation. through the Twitter kind of application or through the Facebook, they are putting up the comments. So that's kind of a direct feedback which are giving to the employees, and this kind of a feedback has also been documented by these kind of the applications. So some companies are using these kind of a application, but it's quite new and it needs to be developed. So this is quite different from the traditional practice of measuring performance of the employees, and where you are getting an input from the other employees about the performance of that individual when you are evaluating their performance. So these are the takeaways of this presentation. Job performance is a set of the employee behaviors that contribute to the organization accomplishment. Job performance has three dimensions: task performance, citizenship behavior, and counterproductive behavior. And task performance includes employee behavior that are directly involved in the transformational of organization, transformation of organizational resources into the goods or services that the organization produces. The transformation is the process. Organizational resource, for example, you are an HR manager. Now you have the resources in the organization. You have the employees who are working for you. You have the basically policy procedures, and you are converting the different kind of information into different kind of procedures, different kind of the policies. And if you are a factory worker, you are working on certain kind of the machine, so you are converting those inputs into the with the help of the machine into the different kind of the outputs. These are task performance include the routine task performance, adaptive task performance, and the creative task performance. Then you get the information about the different kind of the job through job analysis and occupation network. Then citizenship behavior are voluntary employee behavior that may or may not be rewarded, but that contribute to the organization by improving the overall quality of the setting in which the work takes place. And then the counterproductive behavior, which are actually contributing negatively toward the accomplishment of the organization goal and actually creating hurdles for achieving the organization goals accomplishment. And then there are MBO, BAR, 360-degree feedback, and force ranking practices are four ways that organization can use job performance information to manage employee performance, through which they're using a different kind of a method for performance, for their performance management system. Okay, that's it for chapter number 2. If you have any question, any kind of a comment, you come up in the class and you can raise some certain kind of a question. If you're finding any difficulty in understanding the concept, then please share with me, and you can comment over here as well, and you can basically ask in the class as well. Okay, goodbye, and take good care of yourself.